Hi, my name is Danny Fierro, and this is my wife, Catalina. We're excited to be here at the Bridge. I'm the new student ministries pastor here. And one of the things I wanted to share with you is a little bit about our story of reconciliation. Catalina and I had just this past year celebrated 20 years of marriage, but it hasn't always been that easy. Our first 3 years of marriage were a little tough. We didn't grow up in Christian homes and really didn't have a really good foundation for what it meant to be married to one another. And after 3 years of marriage, we ended up separated. I ended up in a moral failure, and there were some things in our lives that were just not right practically, and of course not right spiritually. And so after 3 years of marriage with a 2-year-old daughter and one on the way, we had decided at that point that we were going to end our marriage. And from then in 2000 until 2001 was probably the hardest time in my life. I learned a lot about what it means to be a man of God. I had people in my life who started to point me to the gospel and to what real forgiveness and reconciliation was about. And over a year's time, for me, it was really about learning how to love, learning how to understand how Christ had forgiven me when I came to faith in Jesus Christ during that year. And also, as an extension of that, learning how when Jesus says that for us to forgive as we have been forgiven, to learn how to do that in my marriage. And so it was an opportunity for me to extend that forgiveness to my wife in the things that we had done to each other, and to also to learn to ask for forgiveness for the things that I had done wrong, to repent and to ask for forgiveness. And that was sort of the starting point for us to be reconciled with one another.
Yeah, and in that same time, I actually had a cousin and a really good friend who was speaking into my life, and they were both, separate things. He was doing his own thing and I was doing my own thing, but at that same time, we both had people speaking into our lives, truth and about forgiveness. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we both were. We're kind of getting that forgiveness preached at us in both directions.
And one of the biggest things I think we learned about reconciliation is that it's a process. It didn't happen right away, and it didn't happen without some scarring and some bruising along the way, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. In fact, we had separated in September of 2000, and it took an entire year for us to be able to be at a place where we could be together in the same home even, and that took a considerable amount of time. In fact, it's brutal irony that September 11th, 2001 is a day of infamy in our country, but yet September 11th, 2001 is the day that Catalina and I spent back together for the first time as husband and wife after a year of being separated. And so for us, it was really just about knowing what that looked like for us, and then also being able to have that same type of patience with the people around us. We had a separate relationship with my in-laws for a number of years after we had separated because they were not Christ followers. And interestingly enough, just being able to pray for them and be patient with them and reconcile with them as well. Now they're two of our biggest supporters and cheerleaders, not just in our marriage, but also in ministry, interestingly enough. So that's our story of reconciliation and what God's done in our lives in a process of growing and learning in Him.